Hello and welcome to Super Awesome Runner. My name is Sam. I'm the host of this show on the Super Awesome Mix Podcast Network. If you enjoy the show, you can find more of me and the content on Instagram and on Threads at Super Awesome Runner. If you haven't yet already left a 5-star review, please consider taking a moment to do so. It means a lot to me as the host of the show to keep producing this content and know that it's useful to you. And it means a lot to other would be listeners whenever they come across the podcast page to understand that, this is a good show and that you're getting value from it and that they will too. So I appreciate everyone who has already left a review or a rating, and I would appreciate if anyone else listening would do the exact same thing and leave hopefully a 4 or 5-star review, ideally 5-star. All right. With that, let's get into this week's topic. So, unfortunately, this last week I fell sick and I could not use my phone or any device for a while because I was suffering from really severe dizziness and likely vertigo. And it was not a pleasant experience, let me tell you. I would actually give that 0 stars if I could. Um, it was just one of these random things that can occur. And the silver lining of it all, I now feel a lot better, which is great. That's not really the silver lining, that's just the outcome. But the silver lining of not being able to use my phone or a computer for that amount of time is that I did not go on social media really. And if I did, it was basically just to post on threads or kind of scroll text. But I didn't go on any reels or any TikTok videos or anything of the sort. Now for about a week, actually. It's been at least a week that I haven't looked at anything of the sort. And let me tell you, I feel a lot better at the end of every single day. There is something about the amount of noise and information in those videos and the way that we consume it that has me convinced that it is just not good for our mental health in the amount that we consume it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with short form video or scrolling 10 to 15 minutes out of a day, getting some entertainment out of it and moving on. I think the issue is that it's really difficult to find the balance and, set aside only 10 to 15 minutes of your day to look at it. And it's way easy because it is designed to be this way and designed to be this addictive to spend hours and hours on it. And a lot of interesting biology goes behind that. For starters, as I've mentioned previously on the show, we crave information as human beings. Our brains are designed to seek out information because at some point in our history, information was scarce. And so if you heard something or learned something, that could very well save your life. And that could be something that helped you survive versus others not. So we are programmed to seek out and learn information as much of it as we can. So that's one evolutionary benefit that we had that has now become an evolutionary trap because we have no scarcity of information. We can get information pretty much anytime we want, instantly, wherever we are. I mean, in a lot of ways, that's a very magical and powerful thing. Even in the last 200 years, if you look at human history, we've gone from very few people controlling like a printing press and creating a newspaper, and that's how you got information, to now anyone with a phone, a smartphone or a device or a computer, anything like that can produce high quality content and share information. And we're living through kind of us figuring that out, right? As a society, that it has its pros and it has its cons, just like anything. And we are hopefully finding the balance of that. But in all of that, we are consuming and consuming and consuming tons of information. So that's one thing that's going on with why we can't really put down our phones. The other thing that's happening is we are looking for, we're chasing that dopamine hit. I mentioned last week about how we're just walking around kind of just pulling on slot machine levers all day long. And social media, and especially Instagram Reels and TikTok, really, really highlight that effect because we are constantly flipping through something that is very easy to flip through. Every single time you swipe up to get to the next video is the equivalent of you pulling on a lever, hoping for something that is going to make you laugh or make you, cry or elicit some kind of a response, neurochemically speaking, to kind of flash that dopamine and get you to keep going and keep going. The third part that is really kind of the malice of this all is that unfortunately these algorithms and how they've been designed is to keep you pulling on that lever, y there's kind of a darkness to it. There's this term, I worked in product management for a very long time, but there's kind of like dark patterns in product, and that's whenever you kind of put on your dark wizard's hat and figure out a way to keep someone locked into a product, even if it's probably not good for them, but it is good for you as a business. And social media has definitely a lot of dark patterns in that they know the type of videos that you really like and crave, and they probably could serve that information to you constantly and very easily. But we know from a lot of research that one of the best ways to get someone hooked on something is intermittent random rewards. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this before in the show, but super applicable to social media. So, intermittent random rewards. If you put like a rat in a cage and you've got a lever or a button that they can press, if they press that lever and they get a food pellet 100% of the time, you'll notice after a little bit of time that they'll only press the lever whenever they need food because they now have connected the dot. I press the lever or I press the button and I get a little food pellet. If they press that button and nothing happens, they will sooner or later figure out this button does nothing. I have no reason to press it. If they press that button and every now and then, like let's say there's a 1 out of 6 chance, like a dice roll, that a food pellet will come out, you will get that rat to just basically be addicted to pressing that button. Um, Now replace a food pellet with something even more addicting, like heroin. And, I think they've tested it with basically some very strong, unfortunately for these rats, I'm not a proponent of animal testing most of the time. But they test it with something that is going to be much more addictive, and that rat will basically starve itself to death. If that is the reward and there's no food coming, or they have food optionally, but they're still just kind of hooked on this button press that randomly gives them something that feels good, they will unfortunately press that button until they die or they get sick. That is our brain with a lot of social media. It has been designed to only give us that intermittent random reward. So the algorithm will show you content that it knows that you like, but not all the time. And it will do so randomly because they want you to continuously scroll, searching for that video that you really enjoy. That's the unfortunate part about social media, and that's the part that kinda gets us stuck watching it constantly, which is not good for our brains. So, I mentioned all of this to kind of round out this discussion, that it's generally not a good thing to be constantly engaging your prefrontal cortex, your thinking brain, and be consuming all this amount of information nonstop. I think I either heard this or I created it myself, but there's a great analogy. If you've ever driven in a car that is like, let's say it's a manual car, or you could manually shift it, or even if you can't, bear with me here. If you ever driving a car and you slam on the gas, right, and you're just like letting it roar, you'll notice that there's a point where it kind of redlines, in the tachometer, whenever the RPM meter, you're just about to shift into the second gear. Let's say you were stopped, you slam on the gas, now engine roars, and it's hitting that 8 900,000 rpm meter, and then it'll shift back down into second gear and so on and so forth. I think what social media is doing, and at least how I experience it certainly, is that it's basically keeping us in that red line. Our brains are constantly interpreting information, breaking it down, disassembling it, adding meaning to it. And it's doing this so rapidly that you're not even really consciously aware that it's doing it. But every single video that pops onto your screen, you are essentially instantly scanning that video for what it is, deciding whether or not you're going to stick with it. Is the hook compelling enough for you to continue to watch it, or does it lose you in the first nanoseconds, basically first milliseconds? And you're interpreting what is being said, you're interpreting what you're hearing, you're interpreting what you're being shown. And again, this is all happening instantly through the magic of our brains and our visual cortex and our audio cortex and all the amazing neurological structures underneath that let this happen. But it is a tremendous amount of work just to watch a couple of seconds of a video, and you do that over the course of 10, 15, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, over the course of an entire day. And it's no wonder, and be honest with yourself, because this happens to me. It's no wonder that you end a day and you just feel like you're buzzing, like I feel on days like that when I can't control my scrolling on social media, I genuinely feel like I'm like a used up Kleenex, like I don't feel good. I end the day just feeling really worn out and tired. And it's because I've spent the whole day just consuming information at such an alarming and rapid rate that I never gave myself that downtime. I never let my brain catch its breath. I never let it shift into a higher gear and kind of coast. Like there was no cruise control at any point in my day. It was just constantly like revving and revving and revving and revving. To bring this back to the very top of the episode, I got sick. I couldn't look at a screen because everything was making me dizzy and therefore nauseous. And so I spent a lot of time, most of my day offline, not even really looking at anything. The most I could do is like listen to a TV show. Like I think I just had The Office on in the background as like a comfort thing, just so that would help me sleep. But I would end the day and I would just, other than the whole physical aspect of not feeling well, I just felt like lighter and I felt less worn out and less of that buzzing, used up feeling. And so once I recovered, middle of last week, I kind of kept it going. And I felt that I'd kind of, at least for now, I'd kicked that habit of opening up Instagram and just endlessly scrolling reels. And the last several days, I have felt really good having not looked at it. Do I miss the funniness that will show up? Of course, like I'm not trying to tell you never go on it. I'm just trying to say that unfortunately, it's very difficult to find a balance with it because it's been designed to get you hooked and addicted and, pressing that lever, basically pressing that button over and over again. So it's unfortunate because I think there's value, there's entertainment value, there's informational value. It's an interesting place for sure. Like there have been memes that are hilarious and absolutely worth seeing and sharing, but for the most part, it's just kind of dragging us into the state of just being over, we are over consuming and we are just overstimulated and exhausting ourselves. As a result, we're not giving ourselves the space to kind of be reflective and to look internally and to just sit with ourselves and be with our thoughts. Why is this now? You might be asking, Sam, what are you talking about? Why is this on the show, Super Awesome Runner? And I think that this is all related. I have found, in this time period away from kind of the endless scrolling, that I have spent a lot more time thinking about my goals and thinking about what I want to do this year, what's important to me physically, mentally. What are my running goals? I've been changing them, to be honest, because I think a lot of times I'm influenced. I know I'm influenced by a lot of Instagram runners and fitfluencers and runfluencers, and you want to just, get faster and sign up for all the races and hit every PR, and you push yourself, sometimes in my case to injury, because you are setting the goal line impossibly far away and you're not really paying attention to where you are today and you're not really respecting where your body is and what, your true goals should be. So I've gone from wanting to run really aggressively this year to really genuinely feeling like I just want to run an injury-free year. I would love to spend the year taking care of myself, being much more in tune with myself, not setting goals based on what I'm seeing and hearing from others, but setting goals on what is important to me and what do I really want to achieve, and what will make me feel good, what will make my body feel good, and how do I do this sustainably over a lifetime, frankly. Like running is not, I don't view running as a fad for me. I don't view it as a habit of the year, or a goal of the year. I understand some people's resolution is to run a 5K or run even a marathon and then be done with it, but that's not me. Like running has become a part of me. It's become an identity, in fact. I am a runner. And so I want this to be true up until my old age. And again, all of this time away from kind of the constant feed of information trying to manipulate me and get me to, push myself out of the safe boundaries of what I should be pushing myself to. All of that time away from it has just been so refreshing. Honestly, that's like the best word I can come up with. It has been refreshing. And I've gotten to slow down and spend that time internally and really think about what matters to me and not be so heavily influenced. I realize the irony of you listening to me telling you how you might wanna rethink things is not the irony is not lost on me, but hopefully, again, this advice comes from a lot of, uh, a lot of love and support that you will hopefully have for yourself. I'm not trying to change you, and, I certainly am not judging anyone who's doing anything. Trust me, I'm willing to bet $10 that in a week or 2, I'm gonna be scrolling Instagram Reels again. There's almost no doubt that that's gonna happen. So I'm not saying that I'm better than anyone or I'm better than you. By no stretch of the imagination would I ever make that claim. I'm just saying that it's been interesting having this forced time away from it has made me realize, like, how much more introspective I became and how much more balanced I feel at the end of every day and less tired. So I'm hoping I can find a way to reintegrate some of the, social and fun aspects of reels and TikToks and all that, all the fun parts of the internet without necessarily being dragged into the evolutionary trap of, being the rat in the cage pressing the button over and over because that's not great, right? Like I don't want that for myself and I bet that most of us don't want that for ourselves either. With that, I'm going to wrap up this week's episode. If you have any thoughts on it or any comments, questions, anything, what's your experience? Have you ever had a couple days away from your phone and how did that make you feel? Reach out, at Super Awesome Runner on Instagram and on Threads. I am always there. I'm just not scrolling there, but I will respond to messages and I'm having a lot of fun on Threads because it just feels quieter. There's no loud videos there, which helps a lot. So, with that, though, I hope you have a safe and wonderful and super awesome week as always. And I will see you next Tuesday.